يقولون لكل خارطة طريق حلم، ولكل حلم رجل. من أقاصي نيو مكسيكو الأمريكية إلى السعودية، بعين استثمارية في الرأس. بن هاربورغ، المالك لنادي الخلود. من بن القهوة السعودية إلى القصة الحالمة.
I didn't come into Saudi Arabian football to make money.
You don't like to work under pressure.
They were all gone by the day we walked into the building. The first thing when I get to my room in Arras, I call the front desk and say, "Please bring me the kapsa."
What was the reason behind that?
You know, sheikhs sit on the sidelines and they put the players in a little glass box and they play there, and there are no fans in the stadium. You know, like Google. My club is Al Nasser, but you're my second club. No, in fact, if they had stuck around, then we might have been able to have an amicable conversation about working together. No, I've never met any of them personally. I don't have any personal problems with them.
Do you think it was easy for the community or for us to be engaged with you?
I think the Saudi League is one of the few leagues in the world that has an upward trajectory like this.
ثم إن الحقيقة تقول.
But I never, there was never kind of an opportunity where they said, let's sit together, let's discuss handover, at least for me personally.
أهلا بكم في هذه الحلقة الخاصة والتي نجري فيها حوار مع المستثمر الأمريكي في الكرة السعودية السيد بن هاربورغ. It's a pleasure having you with us here tonight.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
First of all, I just want you to excuse my Saudi English.
No.
I will try as much as I can to be understandable and make or express my thoughts and idea to you. Mr. Ben, is it Ben Harborough? Am I right? Mm-hmm. Okay. We don't know too much about you. We don't know much about you. How would you introduce yourself to Saudi people?
Sure. American by birth. I come from a place called New Mexico, which actually doesn't look that different from Saudi Arabia. It's a place that has a lot of diversity. Like Saudi Arabia, we have desert, but we have mountains. We have beautiful greenery, but also very dry. And then I grew up all around the world. My father was working in different companies, usually Fortune 100 companies, and so we lived in Spain for a few years, Switzerland, and then I went to university in the United States. I graduated from university and I left the United States. I've been basically outside the US the last 20 years, so I'm more of a global citizen than I am an American at this point.
What was your major in
I studied international relations, so international politics. I think because I moved around so much, I moved 8 times before I went to university. I've always been forced to kind of find ways to identify with people when I go to a new country, learn their culture, their history quickly, and then find a way to assimilate myself. So I'm used to this. Yes, yeah, I came first to Saudi Arabia in 2007 to set up the Boston.
2007?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Okay.
As a consultant. So I was working for a global consulting firm at the time called Boston Consulting Group. I'd helped to set up their offices in Dubai, and then I did a project in Jeddah for 1 year and lived in Jeddah for that. And after that, I moved to Asia. So I was living in Singapore, in China, in Indonesia, and then returned to the Middle East in 2018 when we set up our office in Riyadh for investments, for investing in technology. Not much difference.
Not much different.
Obviously, the core niches evolved a little bit. You've got a few new nice hotels, a few nice new shopping centers, but it's a great city and it still has a very casual, kind of comfortable feeling, different than Riyadh. I was just there the last 2 days. I attended the match exactly on Tuesday night, and then spent Wednesday meeting with some of the large clubs in the city as well. Chairman of Chairman of Al Ittihad and the sporting director, and they met with the brand new sporting director of Al Ahly. No, for everything. So a couple things. One, we're building a new facility, and I wanted to learn from their best practices. So I visited their new facilities because they've just built 2 new ones. We need as many friends and allies as we can in this country, so I wanted to get to know them because I hadn't spent much time with either club. And especially as it pertains to getting to know the sporting directors, we need to find ways to work with them in the transfer window to take on some of their players that are maybe not getting sufficient playing time. Maybe they can loan them to us. So it's good we build a personal relationship and a partnership where we can kind of be a smaller team that they can rely on to put players into while they compete for championship. I found in football it's not good to boast, and it's also not good to come in with too high of expectations. If I come in and say, we're targeting to win the league and we're going to be the biggest club in the country, immediately that puts a target on my chest. That means the big guys are going to not like me, their fans aren't going to like me. It means my fans are going to be angry when I miss that high target. So if I set expectations modestly, and we come humbly, and we come to be a value-added participant in this market rather than someone that's coming trying to take down the market, that's I think a better approach than coming in with too big an ego. The atmosphere was amazing. I mean, that was one of the best atmospheres I've seen anywhere in the world. Over 60,000 fans. The energy was incredible. Seeing the tifos, seeing the way the fans reacted to the match, seeing the celebrations, of course, afterwards was phenomenal. I stuck around as long as I possibly could to watch the players celebrating on the field and the fans, and many of us stayed as long as we could after the match. So it was great for me because I wanted to soak in what Saudi Arabian football can be. We don't have every match in a stadium full like that, but I know that the passion that Saudis have for football is at that level. And so if we can reignite that across all of the league, not just amongst a few big clubs, we can really change the nature. Oh, everything. So I was certainly there to support the national team. I've been very outspoken talking about how important the success of the Saudi national team is to us and how I would rather see Saudi Arabia succeed in the World Cup than us win the championship and the league. So I wanted to see the caliber of play of the players. I sat with representatives from other clubs in Saudi Arabia as well as the SPL, MOS. So I think we were all kind of there commenting and thinking about the ramifications of the match, the quality of the team, and so no, I was there to look at everything. When I'm talking about us as Saudi Arabian football. I'm not a Saudi national. I've not been given a passport like others yet, but I am definitely a participant in this ecosystem. I own a club here, and I know that the success of the Saudi national team drives the fervor of the entire league. If the Saudi national team is failing, national appetite for football declines, spending on football declines, and we have less of a target to shoot for, less of a thing to feed, and so we need that to do well. Sure. I mean, I'm not an owner in the American League, and so for me, the success of the Saudi national team from a financial as well as just an emotional perspective, the way that people in Saudi Arabia have reached out to me and brought me into their homes and into this community is far beyond what I've experienced even in my home country. And so I feel emotionally tied as much as I am operationally, financially tied to this place. So I'm already an owner in global football. I own a team that in Spain that was in La Liga for 4 seasons called Cadiz. We're in the first division, or in the first place in the second division right now, so hoping to get promoted back again. I've set up my own multi-club group for the last 5 years. So I've got a group level CEO, sporting director, head of data science, sports science. So we are already operating something that can build and acquire more clubs. So we were already on the hunt for clubs globally. and are likely to acquire a few more. But I was already a participant in the Saudi Arabian market for about 4 years now. I'd set up a partnership between Al Nasser and Cadiz in 2023 before Ronaldo arrived, with the hope of using it as a kind of a beachhead into the Saudi market to get to know the market more. And through that experience, got to know the fans, the clubs. I went to many Al Nasser matches, met with the Ministry of Sport, the Saudi Football Federation, the league. And then about a year and a half ago, was approached by the MOS, who said we're going to be running a tender to privatize some of the clubs in the kingdom. And I probably was the first person to put my hand up and say, I would love to. So we had 3 clubs made available to us at the time, were Al Akdud, Al Oraba, and Al Khulud. Okay. Al Akdud got relegated, so that became less relevant. And then between those 2 clubs, we chose Al Khulud for specific reasons. We liked that it's in Al Qasim. We see Al Qasim as a really vibrant region in Saudi Arabia. Everywhere you go in Riyadh, you meet people from Qasim. Many of the most prominent families are from Al Qasim. Very hardworking people, very diligent. A very football-mad region. I think we have 5 teams in the first division. And so we loved the region. And then secondly, we liked actually the fact that Al Khulud was historically a more modest club. We liked the fact that it didn't have years of history playing in the first division. It didn't have a really strong rooted fan base. It had something we could change and adapt. "100% personally today." Well, it's certainly a daunting task, right? We're competing against clubs in many instances that have budgets that are 8, 10, 20 times bigger than ours, right? So that's the challenge. But I'm used to that challenge. In Spain, we had a similar dynamic. At Cadiz, many times in first division, our payroll was, say, 45 million euros, and we're competing against Real Madrid, who are 860 million. And so we're used to having a big divide between our payroll and others. And so we're good at making use of our resources. Cadiz, we ran profitably or sustainably, and so we tried to bring that discipline here. So I've been in similar kind of conditions. Absolutely. I mean, I've said it many times, but I didn't come into Saudi Arabian football to make money. I am, but I think that there are better ways to make money than football globally, let alone Saudi Arabian football. You can make more, European football, anything. Investing in, I have an ETF that I started, we make 60% return every year. I have venture capital funds where we've made hundreds of times on our money. So you're not going to get that kind of return profile in football, but I love football. Football for me it's religion, it's emotion, it's politics, it's entertainment, it's community, it's everything in one. And so for me, if I can do that sustainably and make some money one day, that's a bonus. I'm not going to lose money running my football clubs, which is something that a lot of people do. They bleed money. I'm not going to lose money, but I'm not here with dollar signs in my eyes, trying to cash out on the Saudi Arabian football market. But it has to be sustainable. Sure, absolutely. So since 2023, we've been following the league. Of course, last year we knew which clubs we were bidding for as well, so we were following the outcome of the league very closely for the entirety of the last season. But no, we've been following it closely. Absolutely. So as I said, I mean, we liked the fact that it had less history, and that gives us the ability to build a new history. If I were to buy a club like Al Shabab, there's a huge amount of history. There's a huge amount of fan expectations. There's a huge amount of politics and pressure. With Al Khulud, I have much less pressure on my shoulders. I can build a club in the way we want to build it. We can build it slowly and carefully and methodically. We don't have fans that are screaming at us all day to buy the most expensive players and to win the league. Expectations for us are modest. And so we love that. That enables me to grow a club the way I want to, systematically, and not emotionally and with a huge amount of pressure.
You don't like to work under pressure?
I like to work under pressure, but I want it to be good pressure. In this case, the pressure is coming from myself. I have very high expectations of what this club can achieve, but it's not coming from external forces. It's not coming from fans who want to punch me in the face when I see them in the street because they're unhappy about a loss. And we will build a club one day that has that level of expectation. But right now, we need every bit of patience and time to build because we're starting from a very low base. You know, it's not that challenging. We had to bring in some additional resources to complement what was already there when we took over, but we didn't inherit all that institutional knowledge that you might have in a bigger club that has spent decades in the first division and has infrastructure that match being in the first division. Our infrastructure was not of a first division club when we've taken over. We don't have our own stadium. We have a very modest training facility. And so it means that there's a lot of work for us to do to catch up to that level. So the first goal was, from a financial perspective, was financial sustainability. We have to run this club in a way where the numbers match up every season. We cannot lose money running this club. And so that means that we're going to have to find creative ways to make money, which includes being more engaged with our sponsors, with our fan base, being more thoughtful and proactive around building and developing talent and identifying talent that other people don't see, and then selling some of that talent, hopefully not too much of it, into other clubs in order to increase our revenue base. So that was really the first goal. And then ultimately the goal is to build a club that is very much rooted in the league, has no risk of relegation, is sitting, you know, kind of at the top half of the table, that is, you know, every now and again taking points off of one of the big clubs, and is able to produce players that are feeding the Saudi national team, are being sold into the biggest clubs, the highest spending clubs, and is seen as a real builder of talent. If you want your son to go to the best possible club that's going to train him and institutionalize him, we want one day that to be the Al-Khaloud Academy. And that one day there's a brand around the Al-Khaloud Academy that when people know, oh, a player came out of Ben's club, that player is disciplined. They have good sleeping habits, good respect for their coaches and other players. They eat well, they train hard, and they've been trained by the highest caliber coaches in the world. So that's kind of the brand we'd like.
How long it would take you to reach that?
I don't think it's as long as you think. So it starts at the top. We need to hire some new academy senior professionals that have run some of the best academies in the world. I brought into my club, it's not been publicly announced, but the former CEO of a club called AZ Alkmaar, which is a club from the Netherlands, which actually has now built quietly one of the best player identification and production factories in Europe. They made over 400 million euros over the last few years selling players into the big clubs in Europe, and they have a better academy today than Ajax or Feyenoord, and that's because they built it very thoughtfully, systematically, institutionally. So I brought him in as part of this project to help build that type of infrastructure. Yeah, I mean, it certainly is not at the level of a first division club in Saudi Arabia, right? We don't have our own stadium. We share a stadium with another club in our relatively small city. We had, a pretty solid football field itself, but we needed to further renovate the lockers. The multi-sport area of our club is very challenging. It's just not at the level that, global top tier players would come to expect when they are playing for a first division club. We've already started work, and we've already made what I would call cosmetic changes around the field. We helped to renovate the locker room. We, since I've been on board, we sodded and finished the process of building a second grass pitch. We've been renovating, coaching rooms and stuff like that. But it's, it's something that we'll continuously do indefinitely. So most of the people that or a lot of the people that left before we ever took hand over the club. So we didn't, so I don't know how many of people who have left or been dismissed since we came on board, but the vast majority of the kind of very senior people left before we came on board. You know, if you take over a club, you probably want to run it your way. In any kind of a private equity or a takeover situation, it's very standard that you would bring in a new CEO, a new sporting director. So I think we have a very clear vision for what we want this club to be. We have a very clear style of play, profile of player, a methodology of sourcing players, a game plan, coaching plan. And so we had to bring people in that were very much aligned with that. And so our anticipation from day one was we would largely have a new kind of predominantly front office team and sporting team. I didn't fire the sporting director. I didn't fire the president or the chairman. They were all gone by the day we walked into the building as owners. So we didn't dismiss any of the senior folks. No, not for those two key positions. And others resigned. I think there were others that I think like our head of professionalism. Others resigned. I think they were affiliated with those individuals before, and they left. No, and in fact, if they had stuck around, then we might have been able to have an amicable conversation about working together. No, I've never met any of them personally. I don't have any personal problems with them. And to your point, we needed that institutional knowledge. I mean, we were left without a professionalism head still up until today, which is the person that helps you register players. I could have used some of that help if they had, kind of showed up the first day when we arrived and said, we're here to help, and how can we help you kind of in the handover and the transition. I would have loved it. It would have been great.
Why do you think they resign?
I can't speak for them, but if someone
was it surprising you?
No, I don't.
I mean, you did not meet them.
Yeah, it was never. We had one or two calls at the very kind of I would say a month or two prior to the handover, where everyone was on the call, the ministers of sport and these types of people. But I never, there was never kind of an opportunity where they said, let's sit together, let's discuss handover, at least from me personally. So I'm still open to meeting them anytime that they're willing to reach out to me.
Okay, we'll continue that after the break. فاصل قصير بعده نعود. اهلا بكم مشاهدينا الكرام في هذا الجزء من الحلقه. نرحب بمستمعي روتانا في المملكه العربيه السعوديه. الحديث لا زال يتواصل مع الاستاذ بن هاربورغ مالك نادي الخلود.
We thought that, so Al-Khulud, as I said, is a club with limited history and the first division, of course. And it's also a club that even from a logo perspective had very short history. I think they just changed the logo 1 year ago. Still, if you go on FIFA 26 today, the logo is not the logo from last year. It's the logo from the previous year. So there's already been a lot of change there. So we thought it would be just a good opportunity for us to kind of refresh the brand bring it a bit more into modernity. The previous logo of Al Khulud looked a lot like a lot of the other logos in Saudi Arabia today, which is kind of a big block letter like Al Khulud or someone like that. So Al Hazm, I think Al Hazm had the same logo designer as Al Khulud. So we just wanted to break from that, create a new, fresh image of the club, refresh the colors, and so rebranding it was something we always thought we wanted to do. So, you know, our view on Al Khulud from the offset has been we need to find ways to make sure this club is competitive. And being competitive for us means that we can source the very best players and have the very best facilities, and of course, welcome our fans into the very best facilities. And so we have been running a process, I've been transparent about this, to explore how we make our club more competitive. There are benefits and there are challenges to working in Aras, right? It is a city full of amazing people in a vibrant part of the country, but there are many Saudi players who have refused to come play for us in Aras. There are, of course, many foreign players that have refused to come play for us in Aras. And so it was a challenging transfer window for us last season, or the beginning of this season, to convince them to come to Aras and to make them feel comfortable. Many of them, you know, have never left their home countries in Europe, and for them, even coming to Saudi Arabia is a bit of a stretch, let alone to a city that's a 4-hour drive from Riyadh. And so we need to find a way as a club to be both competitive as well as still staying rooted in our community. And so we're looking to try to find a way to do that. As I said in a tweet that I sent out last week, we are going to set up high performance centers around the country as well as scouting bases to attract the best talent. And we'll probably be doing something in Riyadh as a result of that. But that's in an effort to, again, have the highest quality facilities and ability to attract the best players to the club.
Do you have a plan for that?
We're still finalizing the plan. So we haven't set in stone, but that's what we're exploring today, is a way that we could, again, attract the best possible talent to Al Khulud while still playing our football in the community of Aras.
But the plan is to move to Riyadh.
No, we're not moving the club. So no matter what, we're always going to be rooted in Aras from a community perspective. We're going to have our academy there. We're going to have our multi-sport there. We'll hopefully be adding new sports and things to it. As you've seen, we're already in the process of renovating the facilities there.
So what you will move here? Only the training?
We would look at setting up a high-performance training center in Riyadh, as I said in the tweet. So the high-performance training center is one that has great, you know, recovery centers, sauna, gym. So we're trying to build a facility that is of the same caliber as the biggest clubs in the
How long it takes you to do that?
Hopefully this is something that we've done this season. I mean, we're moving at light speed at this club in every way. So we'll be making announcements about our Aras Stadium renovation, which is something that's kind of been openly talked about. We've made already some minor renovations at the Aras facility, and then we'll be making some of these announcements around the high-performance centers over the coming
Everybody's asking how much you paid to invest in Al Khulud.
Yep. Well, in some ways, I think maybe we paid too much. Let me start with that fact, because it's been a lot of work. I mean, it's been a lot of sleepless nights, a huge amount of human effort of our team, which have been working literally 20 hours a day to help through the handover process to get a team ready for a season. We took over the club just literally a few days before the season started. So we had a very short period of time. It was very challenging. So in that sense, we probably paid too much. But ultimately, the number we paid was a combination of both equity investment in acquiring the club and a significant amount of commitment to investing in infrastructure, again, across the kingdom. So infrastructure in Aras, infrastructure in these high performance centers. So it's a significant figure when you add all that up. I love it. I mean, you know, this is, people have asked me, did you kind of come in with a plan to do this? This is what I love to do. My view is if you don't have fans and you don't get to see them and touch them and engage with them, there's really no reason to do football. And I think it's actually one of the problems in some of the regional football, not in Saudi Arabia, but let's say in other countries. Football is almost played in a glass box where, you know, sheikhs sit on the sidelines and they put the players in a little glass box and they play there, and there are no fans in the stadium. There's no energy, there's no vibe. And it's just a very soulless experience. And so I wanted to find a way to build community around this club. And as we said, it was a club with a smaller fan base. And so that gave us the ability to kind of build it from scratch and convert people who had never heard of Al-Khulud, as you've told me. A lot of people around the kingdom have never heard of Al-Khulud. A lot of people around the kingdom confuse Al-Khulud with Al-Ukdud. You know, so we wanted to find a way to create a new brand, a new community where people would say, my club is Al Nasser, but you're my second club, or my club is Al Ahly, but now I'm being converted to being yours, and I'll support you any game except for when you're playing Al Ahly. So we're trying to build that kind of a community.
How important is that for you?
It's everything. I mean, for me, again, there are easier ways to make money than football, and maybe more lucrative ways. And so if we don't have that community, if we don't have those people that are with us and traveling with us and supporting us, it's meaningless. I did my best to, we have a luxury that a lot of other, and I want to be careful and say that we act differently than a lot of other clubs today in Saudi Arabia, but we have luxuries that they don't have. I'm the sole owner of this club. Those other clubs have presidents who are elected on boards. They are owned by the Ministry of Sport, or they're owned by corporates. So they don't have the same level of autonomy and freedom that I have. And so I'm not here to disparage other clubs. Other club presidents and CEOs have been incredibly generous with us and helpful to us as we learn the ropes here. But I'm able to talk to the fans in a way that they aren't. And I'm able to go and leave the VIP box and sit next to the fans, as I will do tomorrow night in our match in Buraydah. I'm able to go out into the community and shake hands and go to schools and hospitals and disability centers and spend time giving them handshakes and tickets and scarves and anything I can do to bring them in. But also, we need them more than others. We didn't inherit a large fan base. Wherever we go in the kingdom, people know us. Most people have never heard of Al-Khulud. Most people don't know who I am. So the only way we can get that kind of name out into the world is by being very aggressive and proactive about building that community.
Do you enjoy that?
I love it. I love it. I could do it all night, and it's like the later it gets in the day, and the more. There are days in Aras when I've done 7 or 8 visits, and I visited, a girls' school, and I visited a hospital, and I visited, a community center, and I get more energy as I go along, not less, because I feed off of the energy of the people I meet. If they're happy, they're smiling, they're engaged, and they feel, happy that I'm spending time with them, which they don't have any reason to spend time with me. They don't know me. Then I feel so much more empowered. And that's what's cool about this. The problem in Europe is, it's true in Saudi Arabia, but there's so much negativity and pessimism around football. And I'm in this beautiful window right now where there's still a lot of positivity around our club and around the story we're building. And we feed off that. That inspires us to work even harder. If people were yelling at us and screaming at us, negative motivation is a much more inefficient way of doing business.
Who write the Arabic tweets for you?
So what I do is I write all the tweets myself.
In English?
And then in English. And then I have a group of different people. I actually have 3 or 4 people at this stage that I'll send the tweet to, and I'll say, can you translate it for me? And then I'll maybe test it off someone else. And Arabic's such a complicated language, and it's so easy to be misinterpreted. It's so easy to go in the wrong direction. So it's scary for me to lose control of my voice for someone else to translate my tweets. So of course I can't trust Grok or Google or OpenAI, ChatGPT. It's very scary. But I have different friends, literally friends.
Do you trust them?
Well, then I retranslate it and I reread it again. But sometimes still it doesn't make sense in English. So yes, I trust them. I have people that I trust now. Well, I think they did a lot with a little. They inherited a club again. They took over a club that was in a very low division. They moved it up through the ranks. They did so with very limited resources. And so, I've said many times, if we could replicate what they did this season, last season, it would be an amazing outcome. I mean, I came in this year saying our benchmark for success is just staying in the league. So finishing 9th like they did last season is an incredible accomplishment. So, I think they did a lot with a little.
How's the relation between you and the previous management?
We don't have any relation. I mean, as I said, I was on a couple Zoom calls with them. Some members of our team visited with them during due diligence visits earlier in the year. But I have never personally met any of the kind of senior members of the previous management. I don't have anything against them. There are certainly things that they've done that I didn't love around the handover time. But I don't know who was telling who to do what. It was a kind of a confusing period of time in the handover process. So I have no ill will towards them.
How is the relationship between you and the former president of Al-Khulud?
Again, we have no relation. I've never met with him. I think he did well to bring the club up to this level. We're grateful to him for having done that. The fans that we inherited from the previous generation are very much enamored with him and the work that he did to bring the club from nothing to where it is. And so we're grateful to him for that, but I don't know him personally. I've not met him.
Do you think this is normal?
What's normal?
Not knowing him or meeting him?
Yeah, it's odd to me, actually. If he were to reach out to me, and again, I would, we have a tradition in the United States, which is when one president comes into the White House after another one, the previous president writes a letter to the president coming in and says, here's the salt shaker is over there, and this door over here doesn't work very well. He never reached out to me. There was no effort to engage directly with me. I don't even have his phone number, so there was no effort to engage and to spend time together. I would have liked to meet him, and I'm open to meeting him if he'd like to meet me. I found it disappointing. I mean, I think we wanted this to be a very positive narrative. We wanted to talk about the future of this club. We wanted to talk about turning a page, taking this club from where it is today and taking it to a new level. And where it is today is a miracle that it got this far, but our view is that we wanted to keep the story on the positive side, what we're doing in the community, what we're doing to engage with fans, to change the way that people think about how a club should act towards them, to think about a different way of running a club in a financially sustainable way, to think about how do we use our club as a vessel to build up the Saudi national team and to support other clubs in bringing players in on loans and just changing the face of Saudi football. That's what I want the story to be. I don't want the story to be a conversation of who did what and who said what. I'd like to get away from any kind of negative narratives of the past.
So you're open to meet him?
I'm happy to meet. I'm happy to meet, and I'd really like to move forward on this. We have, I think the challenging thing is some of the words that we've said have been misinterpreted. For instance, I wrote a tweet that I think people got very animated about, which was talking about what the facilities were like before.
Yeah, he said that we already started it.
Right.
Before you.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm not disputing that there was some work done on the facilities before we got there, but certainly the facilities are, I say this because people from the outside at the league level came in and looked at the facilities and said, this is one of the worst facilities across maybe the top 3 tiers of Saudi football, not just in the SPL, but across the first division, the second division. And having visited a lot of other facilities of teams even in our vicinity, like Al Bukhariya, they're much better than ours. Much better stadium. They have their own stadium, pool, multi-club, the gyms, the offices. It's all significantly better. Now, I'm not saying that to cast shame on the previous management. I'm just saying that's a fact of what we're living with. So when people take that tweet and they say, oh, that's a shameful way to treat the previous management. They took it against him. I'm not saying it as an insult. I'm just saying this is the reality.
The situation.
This is what we have. This is what we have to work with. And this is why we have to put our foot on the gas on building new facilities and new renovations and being creative about how we track players. It's not to cast or to criticize the previous administration. By the way, my closest ally in all this is the Ministry of Sport. And of course, the Ministry of Sport is the one that was funding this club. So I'm not here to criticize the Ministry of Sport. I'm here to say, this is what we have today. These are the actions we took. And if you look at my tweet, everything I showed is exactly what I paid for. For instance, there's a field, it's flat, there's some bricks around it. That's what it was when we received it. I personally wrote the check to sod that field. There's a locker room. I show exactly what the locker room looked like when we got it. I can show you exactly what it looks like now. And I wrote the check personally, not out of the club accounts, to renovate it to look like it is. So all of that should be without any form of doubt. But again, it's not to shed blame or light on the previous administration. It's simply to say, these are the challenging conditions we're dealing with. And frankly, we're going to stop talking about it because I've got too many things to worry about in the future. I need to build a sustainable academy. I need to attract the best talent to us. I need to build a financially sustainable club. The last thing I have to do is energy for is think about the past. But we've got to move forward, and no one even cares where we came from. I mean, no one's going to give me any sympathy in saying, well, Ben, you didn't do very well in the league this year, but that's because you inherited terrible infrastructure. Nobody cares. The fans don't care. So if anything, I regret mentioning where we came from because it's irrelevant. It's the reality, but we have to move forward. So I'll be talking from now on about what comes next, not what came from the last. Well, what we tried to do is literally just kind of clean out. There was a lot of posts in there that were confusing. There were some posts that were talking about the coach who had just been hired as well, which was very confusing because there was a coach that was in place for a couple hours and then there was a new coach that came in. So I'd rather not get into, again, what happened at the handover. Yeah, the former president talked about it, but there was a coach that was hired days before we were taking over control of the club, and that wasn't the coach that we wanted. And so then a settlement had to be made immediately to get rid of that coach. So that coach was literally, I think, on the ground in Arras for 48 hours or something like that. So I'm not going to comment too much on that situation, but simply to say
You changed the coach.
we didn't. If it was a coach that we inherited that had like a long-term contract, that's inheriting a coach.
Yeah.
But if a coach is hired days before you take over a club, that's not inheriting a coach. That's I don't know. I have to assume they did because we had visited the facility several times, and I assume that people were telling them from the Ministry of Sport. But I don't want to get into it because I don't know what was said, who approved, who did what. But I'm simply saying that there were posts around that coach that were confusing. So we said, let's just wipe the slate clean. Let's delete all the previous posts for anything related to the previous management and kind of wipe the slate clean. And actually, we probably should have just deleted every social media post up until the day we arrived because we want to just, as you said, we're rebranding, we're refreshing. We want to kind of, that was an era. And we appreciate that was an era that got the club to where it is today. And now we need to think about the next era. That was our... I don't know who he's referring to, so I don't know how to comment on that. I'm glad he thinks I'm a likable and smart person. I don't know how smart I am, but I certainly try to be likable, and it's my true nature. I like to engage with people. I feel so happy here in Saudi Arabia. The people here have been so incredible to me, I can't even describe it. So I'm here and feel a member of this community with all of you.
I'm 100% sure if you both meet together, I think you can.
I'm happy to. I don't, and actually, I think we can probably arrange it relatively soon. I think there's someone that would like to put us together in one room together, so we'll take them up on it. But I have no interest and no time to think about the past. I've got to put all my energy on what comes next. And so to the extent that we can meet him, kind of break bread, bury some of his past feelings, and again, explain to him that the comments that we've made were not, I never even mentioned his name. I never mentioned the word former management. I simply said, this is what we inherited. And then that was interpreted somehow. But, my hunch is that we would have heard negative things regardless of whatever we said. But I'd like to move forward, and I'm not interested. We came into this transaction with an agreement that we could look at other ways to build these high performance centers elsewhere in the kingdom as well. So yeah. So I think we've been very transparent in saying we're probably not going to be the club that's going to go out and bring in global stars that people have heard of before. Our job as a club, if we're doing it right, is to build the next generation of stars. So I don't think many people had heard of Rama Enrique, our number 9, before he joined our club. He now has 3 spectacular goals, including one that I don't think a lot of people in Saudi Arabia saw, which was his goal during our cup match, which was just an absolute rocket. You could literally hear it ripping through the air. So, people had never heard of John Buckley before, and now he's scoring some fabulous goals. So our objective is to find that kind of player and to use superior scouting and data analysis and things like that to bring in players. It's not to bring in older players that are famous names. And so we hope that someday the Saudi national team is full of players that have some connection to our club. Either they were in our academy or they were alumni or whatever. We hope that some of the best players in the world came out of our football clubs. But I don't think you'll see us bringing in a lot of big names.
But there is a chance to change some players in the coming transfer window.
I don't know how many will change. We definitely are very much on the hunt, and I've again been very public about bringing in high quality Saudi players, especially now with a World Cup looming in 2026, and thank God we qualified, but now we need the players that are on that team to get playing time over the next half of the season. And so if there are Saudi national team caliber players or people that could be considered for national service for the 2026 World Cup and are not getting playing time, we are desperate to bring them onto our team, not only to help ourselves, of course, we're selfish in that regard, but also to help the national team get them prepared so that they can do well in the United States.
How do you see the Saudi League now?
I think the Saudi League is one of the few leagues in the world that has an upward trajectory like this. I've said before, I think a lot of the European leagues have kind of flatlined. The UK is still doing well and obviously very lucrative. But even my own league in Spain feels kind of flat. Italy feels like it's on the downturn. France is very much on the downturn. And so I love the upward trajectory of this league. I mean, we're now the third highest spending league in the world in terms of salaries and infrastructure, fourth highest in terms of salaries. The quality of play, the types of players that were coming. I mean, for us to play against Al-Shabaab a couple weeks ago and Yannick Carrasco is there, I mean, this guy was a mega star when I was in Spain. And so to see that caliber of player and the coach that they have sitting on the other sideline is crazy to me, that caliber of talent is here. And so to me, this is a league that has all the right fundamentals. Saudi people, I think, have some of the highest football IQ in the world. They love this sport. 75% of them would say they're diehard football fans as opposed to only like 63% in Brazil. So this is the most diehard football country in the world. So I love all those conditions culminating with the World Cup in 2034, which gives us something to kind of shoot for. So I think the conditions are perfect.
Do you see it successful project or promising project?
Well, I think we're still in the evolutionary stage. And so what, my view is you had kind of the first generation of Saudi football, which was huge and historic, but still very regional. I mean, I don't think if you went down New York City, you'd meet a lot of people who'd heard of Al Hilal. Then there was kind of, generation 2.0, where Cristiano Ronaldo comes and global players start flooding into the market. And now I'm hoping we move into a third phase, which I think was kicked off by our privatization process, which is financial sustainability. These clubs have to be able to balance the books. That probably means more privatizations. But what that means is that this league can't afford to continue to burn money. It has to find a way to generate a product that is globally interesting. And so we have TV revenue and other forms of match revenue that would enable us to make money the way we do in Spain without external government funding.
If you would rank the Saudi League, in which?
I think it's easily top 5 in the world. I mean,
now
I think it's just on the edge. I mean, so my club in Spain, Cadiz, plays in the second division of Spain, which has huge clubs like Malaga, Deportivo La Coruña, Almeria, Granada, Racing Santander, and that league is already at a pretty high level. I think we're still above that league, and people have said that league is the 5th best league in Europe, maybe 6th best league. So I would put Spain, England, probably Italy above us, but France, especially given where they are from a TV rights perspective, is on a downward slope. So I think we might be able to nip France or even maybe Portugal.
Do you think we'll see more investors in the coming few years?
I wouldn't be surprised at all. I mean, I think just like with Ronaldo taking the dive into Saudi football and that opening the door for other players, I think us taking the dive here as a foreign investor, and you already had plenty of domestic investors who want to invest, but I think you're going to see huge numbers of foreign investors who previously thought Saudi Arabia was not investable because it was this arms race and you're competing with all these clubs that can spend infinite amounts of money. But I think if we can prove that you can run a financially sustainable club here, then that will be a testament to the world that there's plenty of opportunities to invest in.
Do you receive calls from friends asking you about the investment?
Absolutely. Sometimes I don't tell them the truth because I want to keep this market a little bit more, protected before everybody piles in. But I think they'll come, and I think people see the caliber of players here. They see the amount of investment. They see again the passion of the fans and the appetite. They know that Saudi Arabia has a long footballing history to begin with, good performance in the World Cups, and so it was on people's radar, but now it's really elevated on a plateau people never expected. I think it helped players to put the Football League on their radar because
the investors.
I think it started with players because with players, there was certain players, like for instance, my players in Spain, they love their life in southern Spain. They love the food, the beach. Even if I paid them double their salary, they still might not move to Saudi Arabia a few years ago because they say money doesn't buy happiness or something like this. But now I think with these players coming here, with the renovation of the facilities, several clubs have already renovated their facilities, we'll be bringing in new facilities. All of a sudden you have first-tier caliber players matched with first-tier caliber facilities. You have first-tier caliber cities like here in Jeddah and Dammam. You have in Ras. You have this. You have kind of that ecosystem flywheel that's necessary to make it work, and so that then will attract, I think, investors as well. But we had to first get the players here. Yeah, I've been outspoken about this. My view is that the global media has grossly misrepresented Saudi Arabia. This is, first off, one of the safest countries in the world. I feel safer here than walking down the street in the United States, for sure. And the Saudi people are unique globally, and particularly in this region, as the most friendly, most welcoming. I mean, I barely even get a chance to eat out for dinner eat out at restaurants, because everyone's inviting me to their homes to eat. The hospitality, the love, the care. It's in your DNA. You teach it to your sons and daughters. It's just amazing to me. And I feel so blessed to be welcomed into this community, even in a small way. So I am here to be an ambassador for Saudi Arabia in any way I can. And unlike Cristiano, no one pays me. I'm paying to be an ambassador. So in that way, hopefully people appreciate it. But I love it here, and I really think that it is one of the most beautiful and remarkable places in the world. But most importantly, because of the people, and that makes all the difference. And so anything I can do to dispel those myths, I'm trying. Oh, it's amazing. I mean, and even our players who, some players come in with kind of picky appetites and whatever. I've never had a foreign player complain about the Saudi food because it's great grilled meat and rice and vegetables. There's nothing here that makes you sick. There's nothing here that, is kind of weird, like in China with eating parts of the animal you wouldn't normally eat. So this is a very, let's say, a foodie-friendly place. And now you have global restaurants and local restaurants coming here. So
there's specific food that you really like?
My favorite is kapsa. Not even close. It's an easy one. I go, this is the first thing when I get to my room in Ras, I call the front desk and say, please bring me the kapsa.
Mr. Ben, again, it was a pleasure having you here with us tonight. Thank you so much. I will leave the last minute for you if you want to say anything to Al Khulud fans.
My message is the same every time, which is, we need you. We need you badly. We don't have the luxury of having a big fan base that has a built-in history, and anywhere we go, the fans are there. This is an organic movement. It was so amazing to me to watch. I wasn't at their game in person, but the Shabab game, we had fans there who were young, I think university students, who formed together after seeing the tweets and met in the stadium and started creating their own chants and their own energy and screaming throughout the entire match. And it made me cry because it showed what's potential possible in such a short period of time, which is if we can change the way that we engage with fans, we make them feel like a stakeholder in the club, that their opinion is asked for, that their views are valued, that we really work hard to earn their love, earn their trust. We don't ever take it for granted. Then what we're trying to build here is a movement that hopefully can ripple through all of Saudi football and refill the stadiums, because I know that people love football here, and it's challenging for me to go to a beautiful stadium and see it half full or 10% full and it not have that energy and vibrance that we see in Europe. And so, but we as a club especially have such a small historic fan base that we need to reach out. And even if your club is Al Nasser or your club is Al Hilal or Ittifaq or whatever it is, we're here to be your second club. Come to us, support us. We need you more than ever. And your presence in the stands, your presence online, it means the world to us, and we're so grateful for you.
Thank you so much. شكرا جزيلا.